The Mexican drug cartel, the Sinaloa cartel, exceeds the budget of some countries, and the fleet includes more than 600 aircraft. And this is just one criminal group, and in some countries there are tens and thousands of them, albeit on a smaller scale. For example, in the United States today, there are over 33,000 active gangs. Unsurprisingly, some governments choose to work with shadow structures, while others outlaw them. In this issue of Histographics, we're going to show you a selection of the most powerful and violent gangs in the world. The Mara Salvatrucha Group, also known as MS-13, has been described by former President Donald Trump as equal to Al-Qaeda or worse. By some estimates, this is the largest gang in the world, with 70,000 to 300,000 members. They rampage in 42 states of the USA and several countries of Latin America, specializing in drug and arms trafficking, kidnapping, and extortion. MS-13 does not have a rigid hierarchy and leader, and the name is translated from slang as a gang of Salvadorian stray ants. This is because initially in the 1980s, the gang was founded by immigrants from El Salvador who fled the civil war in their country. When a newcomer joins the ranks of MS-13, he is beaten by other gang members for 13 seconds. No exceptions are made, even for 8 and 9-year-olds. The ants are also merciless towards their comrades in arms who wish to leave the group. A 17-year-old Brenda Paz, who decided to quit crime and cooperate with the FBI, was killed by her boyfriend, although the girl was expecting a child from him. Even a high position does not serve as 100% protection against MS-13, as is the fate of the son of the president of Honduras, kidnapped and killed by them, proves. At the same time, the members of the gang do not hide too much. They are easily recognizable by their distinctive feature: tattoos on their faces. If MS-13 are considered one of the most dangerous groups, then the Yakuza should be considered one of the richest, with a capital of over $100 million. The Yakuza appeared about 400 years ago. Today, the gang consists of about 100 to 200,000 people around the world. In translation, the name means the worst deal in a card game, since they were once outcasts. These mafiosi also feature colorful tattoos, sometimes covering their entire body under their clothes. The very first symbolizes the transition from the parental home to a new family, that is, a gang. In 2018, the former head of the Yamaguchi Gumi clan, who had been in hiding for 15 years, was arrested in Thailand. 74-year-old ex-mafioso was given tattoos on his back, which he did not hide. Finally, the guess was confirmed by the absence of the phalanx of the finger. The fact is that for a serious offense, the Yakuza traditionally chop off one phalanx for themselves. Previously, with each such injury, the guilty person becomes more and more helpless and dependent on the head of the clan. Many people know that the Yakuza are involved in the arms trade, drugs, as well as gambling and smuggling, but few people know, at least in the West, that their rulebook includes charity and crisis relief. It was the Yakuza who were the first to come to the aid of the victims of the earthquakes and tsunamis of 1995 and 2011, as well as after the accident at the Fukushima 1 nuclear power plant. Even more ancient roots are present in the Chinese triad. Some experts consider it to be the oldest criminal organization in the world, dating back to the 3rd century BC. According to the Romantic version, the forefathers of the triad were monks who decided to take revenge on those who burned their temple. Today, in order to get into the triad, you need to go through a rigorous selection and have a recommendation from one of the participants. The gang members also cover themselves with tattoos, trying to keep them small for camouflage purposes. A new recruit is most often given a dragon tattoo. The group specializes in drug and human trafficking. It is initially maintained by ordinary businessmen who are forced to give part of their income to the boss. This money is used to buy weapons and food. At the same time, if such a businessman has a serious problem, he can turn to the boss for help in solving it. The Sicilian Cosa Nostra, which means our business, was originally born to help. In the 13th century, these were peasant defensive detachments, and in the 19th century, the modern mafia appeared. Citrus plantation owners needed bandit protection, which Cosa Nostra was able to provide. Today, her main income comes from selling drugs. Cosa Nostra has its own code of honor, OMERTA. The release of information about the organization is punishable by death, and not only for the informant, but also for his closest relatives. This rule serves as a reliable protection for the mafiosi, since in Italy, they go to jail only if they have testimony. Moreover, OMERTA forbids admitting the very existence of the mafia, so the criminals say, "our business." Death is the only valid reason for leaving this case. The Cosa Nostra Code also prohibits romance with the wives, daughters, and girls of other mafia members. The group has its own special ritual of accepting a new member. The newcomer is taken to one of the senior members of the mafia. There, he is pierced in his finger and given a card of a Christian saint, which he must sprinkle with his blood. Then the card is burned, and the recruit grinds the ashes between his fingers. At the same time, he promises to keep the secrets of the mafia and swears loyalty. Another Italian structure that does not like to be called the mafia is the Neapolitan group, the Camorra. The locals call it the system. Camorra originated in the 18th century and, unlike Cosa Nostra, prefers not to get involved in politics. It lacks strict hierarchy and discipline, which makes it uncontrollable and extremely dangerous. In addition, an organization that has no head cannot be deprived of a leader and disorientated. The main activities of this criminal group are in the traditional drug trade, as well as the smuggling of alcohol and tobacco products. Unlike Cosa Nostra, where women cannot rise to significant positions, Camorra has godmothers. Interestingly, the clan leaders live in poor areas. This helps maintain credibility as many of the recruits are unemployed youth. Membership in Camorra promises them a well-fed life and high earnings, though not for long, since this path leads either to prison or to the next world. But members of the Taiwanese group with the poetic name, the Bamboo Union, know firsthand what hierarchy and discipline are. Their fathers were officers and supporters of the President of the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek, who fled to Taiwan in the 1950s after losing to the Communists. The children of the fugitive officers formed a gang to confront the bullying local hooligans. The experience of the fathers helped to make it cohesive and well-organized. Now, it is one of the most influential organizations not only in Asia, but also in Europe and America. It is involved in drugs, hijacking, contract killings, gambling, and debt collection. Members of the gang are in no hurry to give themselves away with tattoos. On the contrary, sometimes their social position is astonishing. For example, a modest cashier in a Singapore hotel who lived with her mother and grandmother actually headed a group of smugglers in the Bamboo Union. Under her leadership, consignments of drugs worth hundreds of millions of dollars were smuggled. The lady also managed to run the casino. An American gang of blacks from Los Angeles, Crips, that is, cripples, can also boast of an interesting name. The name appeared in 1971 thanks to the testimony of elderly Japanese women who were attacked by criminals with canes. What the women mistook for a medical accessory was actually used as a weapon. Initially, the gang consisted mainly of teenagers, 15 to 17 years old, who were easily recruited near secondary schools. The selection of the Crips to the gang also takes place in an original way. The applicant must commit a crime in front of witnesses. Crips are easily recognizable by their blue clothing and a bandage on their face, which they call a flag, and which are not allowed to be touched by strangers. Another feature of the gang, a special signature dance, Crip Walk or Sea Walk, which is mainly performed with the feet. It was danced by candidates in the selection, as well as members of the gang, when they wanted to warn others about the approach of police or enemy gangs. But the dance became especially popular after rappers picked it up. As a result, in the 2000s, Sea Walk was banned throughout the United States as it could provoke conflicts. Thanks to the confrontation with the Cripples, another gang appeared, at first simply as Anti-Crips, and then acquired its own name, Bloods. While the Crips took over central Los Angeles, the Bloods decided to expand into the suburbs. Its members copy the Crips in many ways, down to the manner of dressing, but their main color is red. As a sign of opposition to the Crips, they have gone so far as to avoid using words that begin with the letter C. For example, instead of coffee, they drink Boffy. And the popular brand Calvin Klein, abbreviated CK, they decipher as Crip Killer. Many of the now famous rappers are in this group or previously had some kind of connection with Bloods. True, the desire of some to break these ties led to a conflict with their former brothers. Bloods also has their own signature dance, B-Walk. It adds hand movements that are almost never used in C-Walk. In 2019, 2 rival gangs were involved in a tragic accident. The young rapper Nipsey Hussle was shot and killed, a man who called for peace between the gangs. His wish was briefly fulfilled. At his funeral, both gangs walked side by side. I would like to end today's selection with what we started with, the Sinaloa Cartel. This is the most influential group, comparable to transnational corporations. By some estimates, it makes more than $10 billion a year from drug sales. The cartel emerged in the late 1980s and today has over 150,000 members. However, in fact, the influence of this organization extends much further. It's just not that all employees of completely legal firms know that part of their funds came from the drug traffic in Sinaloa. When police arrested one of the sons of the head of the drug cartel in 2019, Sinaloa militants took over the entire city. The president of Mexico personally ordered the release of the arrested person. The U.S. authorities call the head of the cartel El Chapo, or Shorty, who is serving a life sentence as the #1 criminal in the world. For his capture, at one time they promised a reward of $7 million. However, El Chapo himself distributed multi-million-dollar bribes to the presidents and vice presidents of Latin American countries. He also developed a system of tunnels for transporting cocaine and even used drones for this, not to mention all types of land, submarine, and air transport. Which criminal organizations would you add to our list today? Write your options in the comments. Like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell to be notified when new videos are released. Bring your friends, and see you